afternoon. Associate Minister of Justice Nicole McKee and Sonny Koshel, the Chair of the Ministerial Advisory Group on Retail Crime. And today we're going to be announcing some changes that we're making to deal with shoplifting and low-level theft, which has become a real scourge in our community over the last few years in particular. It's always been around, but it's been getting worse, and typified by examples of people walking out of supermarkets with trolleys full of food and trying to ensure that there are more effective consequences for those situations. Now, we've been doing a whole series of things, starting with sentencing laws to ensure that tougher sentences are taken through and there are fewer discounts. We've already announced a couple of months ago, as part of this crimes legislation, we're going to be giving the ability for people to have citizens' arrests during the day to hold on to people until police arrive. And today we're announcing that as part of that Crimes Amendment Bill, we'll be looking at an infringement regime first as an option available. So if somebody steals shoplifts from a situation such as this, currently you have to go off to court, go through that whole evidential process. Now that's appropriate in many cases, but it's very time consuming and difficult as well. And so what we're going to do is introduce an infringement regime, just as in the same as a speeding ticket. The police will be able to be called and give somebody a ticket immediately, up to $500 if the goods taken have been up to $500, and up to $1,000 if it's higher than $500. So that's the first step. Second step is to simplify and increase the penalties for larger court processes where people have stolen goods, and we'll have a limit now up to $2,000, which will attract up to 1 year in prison, and over $2,000, which can be up to 7 years in prison, to send a clear message around that. And there's a lot of sort of administrative burden around proving the exact figure, and so we're going to say reasonably assessed as $2,000 to keep that simple. And the third area is around having an increased maximum sentence if people using an aggressive manner and a threatening manner in the course of that shoplifting, and that will approach a higher sentence. So Nicole might like to add a few words, and then we're hoping to have questions.
Thank you, Minister. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the Retail Mag. They are the ones that have come up with the ideas that we are now looking to implement as a government who has said enough is enough. It's about time that we support the businesses to be able to grow, because we need that growth. And in return, we are supporting our communities, those that are the victims of crime, those that have to live amongst those that are committing the crime. This is another change that we are making that will benefit New Zealanders and benefit businesses. There are now real consequences to crime, and we can't wait to implement them.
And I'll just introduce Sonny to say a couple of words. I think, ultimately who benefits from it, it is the law-abiding New Zealanders who pay for their goods, who pay for their food, who pay for their clothing, who are ultimately losing out when people steal stuff and are not held to account. And that's the purpose of this exercise. Do you want to say a couple of words, Sonny?
Thank you, Minister. So today, we are announcing this shoplifting, offence reforms on this one, making the offenders that they have to be held accountable, and there need to be real consequences. And we are making the police easier to prosecute the shoplifters. So there would be 3 changes, as Minister has mentioned, and also as you know, there are lots of loopholes in our current laws that we are removing those loopholes. We are closing those loopholes. The shoplifting, as you know, it's become a pandemic in New Zealand. Today, it's costing $1.4 billion to New Zealand, which is over $27 million per week. It's over $3.8 million per day. So this needs to be stopped. And the current law, the shoplifting is the lowest penalty in the Crime Act, and that needs to be changed. And this is sending a wrong message to the police, to the offenders, to the retailers, and of course to the courts. And this is currently saying that probably the shoplifting is not a serious offence. It is. As I said, it is costing New Zealand $1.4 billion per annum, and that need to be stopped. So happy to take questions. Thank you.
So with shoplifting under $500, when would it apply to be an infringement fine, and when would it actually go through the courts?
Well, that's ultimately a decision for the police to take in concert with the people that the money's been stolen from. So what we're offering, yes, you can always go through the court process if you want to, but we're providing an opportunity for an infringement regime where it's a quick ticket, there's a consequence, and it'll enable it to happen more often so that people aren't, quite often the reality is that because there's such a high threshold to go to court, people aren't doing it as much, and so some people are getting away with this without any consequences. So the point of the infringement regime, it's easier, faster, and there are real consequences.
Can you just explain how that infringement regime will work? So a retailer calls the police, they turn up, issue a ticket on the spot?
Yes, it could happen in that way, and if the police aren't available immediately, then there could be CCTV coverage or footage which demonstrates that person. They can identify them and then issue a ticket a couple of days later.
You talk about strengthening those penalties as well. Can you just tell me how this compares to the old penalties? How much more stringent are these?
Well, look, the earlier penalties were up to $500. It was up to 3 months imprisonment. Up to 500 to 1,000 was 1 year, and then over 1,000 was 7 years. We're simplifying it down to a threshold of $2,000, and up to 1 year, up to $2,000, and 7 years over. And recognising we want to simplify it, but also ensure that there's always up to a year consequences, maximum sentence for any shoplifting.
What if there's multiple situations where they're less than $500? Say you shoplift 3 times, less than $500. Does that accumulate to a bigger sentence, a bigger fine? What would happen?
Well, if it can be demonstrated that they've stolen more than $2,000, then they go to the higher threshold. And so that's what we're trying to demonstrate, that there are consequences for crime. You can't just walk out of shops, steal stuff, and expect to get away with it.
But it's always...
Can I just clarify, on the CCTV, you might have somebody who you didn't manage to stop, you get a picture, you use facial recognition, and then you ping them with a fine. Is that how it would work?
Well, you'd have to be able to identify the person and then demonstrate that they've taken it and be able to prove that. The point of the infringement regime, of course, is it's you don't have to show intent. It's if you have stolen, then you're liable for the fine, unless you've got a reasonable excuse.
Sometimes
you still rely, though, on the fact that you would recognise somebody from facial recognition?
Not necessarily facial recognition. They just need to be able to be identified properly, and then an infringement regime can be done. And so that the precise details of that will be argued out over the select committee process over the year. We're hoping to introduce this bill in the next few months, go to a full select committee, we'll work and we'll discuss all those sorts of issues.
When do you see it becoming more?
All going well this time next year.
I just want to... You go ahead.
Okay, so in the light of that memo that came out about a month ago, where the cops basically said, we ain't going to go after anybody for under 500, how difficult do you think it's going to be to get this one over the line?
Well, of course, and the police commissioner made it very clear that that's not the policy, and nobody in this country can just walk out of shops without paying for stuff and think there won't be any consequences. Now, of course, there's a broad context of this, and the police can't be on every corner at every moment, and so we do the best we can with the resources that we've got. And what this is about is giving another simple tool for police and for retailers generally to be able to fight back against people stealing stuff from them.
Talk about the administrative burden that deters retailers from making official complaints. I mean, what are those administrative burdens?
Well, for example, with the threshold at $1,000 or $500, you have to go to court. You've got to manually figure out exactly how much was in the basket of things that were stolen, and if it's from a supermarket, you've got to sort of work it all out. It's $482 and prove it was $482 and not $505, and that, in practical terms, makes it very difficult to actually get a prosecuted case through the courts.
What about damage that is caused during a shoplifting, like breaking glass or something along those lines? Is that added on to the cost that you might have stolen?
Potentially it could be. If there's any violence or intimidation included, and that takes it to another level as well. And we've got no tolerance for that. And so that's very much part of our broader effort to have stronger consequences for crime and anything relating to violence.
And don't forget also that we have other aggravated offences in the Crimes Act that people can be charged with as well.
Yesterday we asked about the strain this might have on the prison and justice system. You and Winston Peters seem to have kind of differing opinions on that. Do you mind to clarify?
No, well, there was no differing opinions. We're just the government recognises that we may have to increase, and we will increase prison capacity over the next few years, and that's why we've put a lot of money in the previous budget into that, recognising that ultimately, what's our goal? Our goal is to reduce the number of victims of crime. We want to have fewer New Zealanders having their lives overturned and destroyed or undermined by theft, by violence and by crime generally. And so if that means that more people need to be in prison in the short term, so be it. But long term, we hope by sending a very clear message that there are consequences for crime, people will change their ways.
What do you say to those people who are the increasing number of New Zealanders living below the poverty line, who may occasionally steal the odd apple or loaf of bread or something like that, and they get things for a big fine?
Well, stealing is not okay. I'm sorry. And all New Zealanders are struggling with putting food on the table. It's been a tough economic time. And when people steal stuff and don't pay for it, it's the law-abiding citizens who have to pay for it ultimately. And we're on the side of people who follow the law, do the right thing, and on the community and the retailers who are trying to make a buck without having stuff stolen from them.
Just a question for Sonny. Sonny, is this an idea that you've come up with, or is this the stuff that retailers have actually proposed to you?
So when this MAG was set up, so we are going across the country, meeting those stakeholders, be it in Auckland or Waikato or Bay of Plenty or Wairarapa or Manawatu, wherever. So this is across New Zealand. We see the frustration from the retailers who are losing so much. As I said, the retail crime, it's a huge in New Zealand for a country like this, and the people are frustrated. $1.4 billion is a huge sum. It's happening every day, and last year police got 84,000 reports on shoplifting, and that would mean 200 reports per day. This is to that scale, and all those retailers, they want this crime genie back into the bottle.
Yes. Are this infringement regime something that retailers specifically ask for?
Look, nobody would like to see first-time offenders. So this, we are providing the tools, additional tool for the police to take action immediately when they need it to be. And this is like a speeding ticket.
And the police support?
Police would definitely, they would like to have something in their hands because they have been frustrated without those resources and the powers in their hand. Now they would be more happier with this one.
Do we have any idea? I would have a couple more
retailers
questions.
at any greater risk, though? Somebody would know they would get fined and they'd just be very aggressive about getting out of there.
For that one, we have created an aggravated factor if somebody is getting aggressive. So that takes the sentence or penalty up to 7 years.
Sonny, you've said that.
Last one.
Sonny, you've said that there's this perception that offenders believe that police won't respond and courts will let them go. How do you see these changes that we're announcing today will change that perception, do you think?
Now over here you see this would definitely change the perception. Is there are instant fines, and also the threshold, as you know, they know that there is a serious penalties and they would have to do the time for the crime that they're doing. Earlier what was happening, the offenders, they were saying they're untouchable. But right now we are creating the consequences, the accountability that they have to fear for. It's not right to get into any shop and go store by store and keep on lifting $500 each. They know the loopholes, and we are plugging those loopholes.
How much money is going to be generated from this, do you think?
In terms of fines?
Yes.
Well, we don't have an estimate on that yet, but it could be millions of dollars. But ultimately, what we want to see is fewer people stealing stuff from retail settings such as this. And we want New Zealanders to feel safe in their communities. We want to have fewer victims of crime. And we want to send a very powerful and clear message that it's not okay. Doesn't matter how tough things are, to go around, steal stuff, take that out of the store without paying, and expect or your fellow New Zealanders to pay for it. That's not okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.